Office Hours. Today's are for you to ask questions. So if you have any questions to me, please ask through the Q&A panel. In the meantime, I thought I will show a very short demo because 2 months ago we had a session where I improvised a bit about possible daytime issue with adding an incorrect to-date call. And I tried to show the problem that happens when you use a to-date on sysdate. I was not able to quickly show the problem, so this time I've prepared a demo, and so like short demo in SQL Developer. So I would like to show you where the problem lies if you add a to-date to sysdate where it should not be. And this is a pretty frequent error that people do. I'm not quite sure why, but I've seen this a lot, so it's why I would like to stress that it's a pretty, maybe potentially a pretty severe error that is not that easy to spot. So let me share the SQL Developer screen. As you can see, I have prepared a few statements. So let's first just set the default American United States environment, language American, NLS territory America. The session has been altered. We can now check what is the default date format for US. We see this is day, a month abbreviation, and the RR format, which is year, with special handling for dates, two-digit dates. You may remember maybe that this format was added around year 2000 to allow two-digit entry to still refer to the previous century, so that any year, two-digit year number below 50 counts to the same century. I mean, current century actually. If we are in the first half of the century, like we are now in year 2020, and if the two-digit year is more 50 or more, then it will count to the previous century, because it was thought that it still refers to old dates from 1990s or 80s or whatever. So this is the format that is now the default for US. So let's create a very simple table, right, which just has 2 columns, one date column, one ID column that shows, let us number the rows. And the name is meaningful, right? We have certain entities in applications that may actually refer to dates that are a lot of years in the future, right? In case of a mortgage, a mortgage of 30 years is not uncommon, right? So let's see what happens if we enter a mortgage information into the table with the end date of the mortgage. I don't know the official term for when the mortgage actually expires, so I just use the name end date, and this end date will be 30 years from today. And let's insert it once correctly and once with this incorrect to date that is added around a sysdate expression. This should not be there because sysdate is already date. So there is no point in adding to date where the column is of the data type date. Let's insert it, right? We can commit, it's not really important. And now let's first look at the entries in the table, right? In using the default format. This will use the implicit conversion to text and show us the dates with implicit format. Everything seems legit, right? It will be 2050, 30 years in advance from today. So I'm not quite sure why it's 7th. Okay, anyway, probably because of 30 years, so I haven't counted the leap years. So this is why we got seven days less. So the expression should be actually corrected a bit. But now, if we actually look with the full format, what's in the column, we will see that while the first one is really 30 years in the future, like we wanted, the second one is actually in previous century, right? Long time ago. And this is exactly because of this wrong to date, which is combined with the default format of RR. Because what happens here is that a to date function expects a string, because its purpose is to convert a string, parse a string basically, and yield a date. So because it expects a text, it will actually try to convert the argument implicitly to a string. So there will be an implicit to char added here, right? And what happens now is the date will be converted to something like this, so such string, right? And now, because this is 50 or more, right? And we are still in 2020, so we are in the first half of the 21st century, the RR format will treat this 50 as being in the previous century, because the halves of the date and the current date are different, right? So we go to the previous century here. And exactly we get the wrong date entered, which obviously is not what we wanted. So this is exactly the risk, the problem that we encounter if we add the to date call to sysdate where it should not be. So make sure you never add it so that you don't get unexpected results from date time expressions. Okay, so this was the short demonstration, and now if you have any questions to us, please ask. If not, then that's all we had for today, and we can then meet again in 2 months. I think there will be no session next month because I am on vacation, so this is like a vacation month. So we'll skip the session in August and we will meet in September. Okay, do we have any questions? I don't see anything in the Q&A panel, and I don't see anything in the chat. So I assume there are no questions. As I mention always, you can ask questions through the Office Hours interface. There is the way to post questions. Okay, I see a question. It would be nice if Oracle had an initOra parameter to raise an error when implicit conversion is used. Maybe there existed a hidden parameter for this. I don't know about any such parameter. We have only one parameter that warns you if there is an error in implicit conversion between nchar and char data types. So because nchar is Unicode always, and char data types are not necessarily Unicode, then it may happen that in this conversion certain characters are lost. In such case, there will be an error. By default, there will be no error. There will be the replacement characters would be used, but you can set this parameter. Let me quickly. Let me share the screen again. This is this one. Okay. And if you check all session parameters, let's order by parameter name. Actually, that's by value parameter name. Okay. Sorry, this is not very informative. Okay. We have this parameter NLS nchar conf exception. And by default, it's false. It can be set to true, and then there will be an error reported if this implicit conversion causes an issue. But this is the only parameter that we have for implicit conversions. Otherwise, there are no such parameters. So you have to, I mean, implicit conversions are considered standard from the very old time. So it's, I guess, it's actually also part of SQL standard. So it's considered a normal situation where there is implicit conversion. But for this particular case, yeah, it looks like it would be actually good to have a parameter to warn about this particular situation. We should probably keep it in mind and see if somebody would like to implement it, actually edit. We don't want to have too many initOra parameters, so we need to really understand if there is maybe some other methods to get a similar result without having an initOra parameter. But let's see. It's something to think about. Okay. Do we have other questions? I see no questions. So I guess we can finish for today. Have a nice summer. And let's talk again in September. Thank you very much. Goodbye.